Hello again and welcome to Walford Weekly, your EastEnders podcast. This week we're talking about episodes that aired on the BBC from Monday the 7th to Friday the 11th of December. And as always, I'm joined by the bitch to my cow, Rob Innes. Hello, Rob.
Hello, the Sharon to your Beale.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
We're just going to start the show with the news that Barbara Windsor has sadly died on Thursday this week. And if you wanted to hear our Memory to Barbara Windsor episode, you can do. It's already out. It came out yesterday, if you're listening to this on the day of this release. And we talk about Barbara Windsor, our happy memories, and Peggy Mitchell as well, and our favourite scenes from her time on the square as well. And it's a really lovely episode, isn't it, Rob? It's really lovely to listen to.
And Alex cut me out getting emotional, which I'm very grateful about.
In honour of Barbara Windsor, we are commemorating this episode of Walford Weekly to her memory. And like we said on the special episode, our thoughts and our wishes go out to her husband and her friends and family as well. Mm-hmm. So let's get going.
Where do we even begin?
Where do we begin? So I suppose we should begin with the fact that Kat and Kush have returned. Despite their fleeting journey to France, they realised when they got to Calais that they didn't have any money. I don't think they had their passports. They didn't have anything really. They just had the shirts on their back. So they've come back to get some money off Phil and to plan their escape once again. But it hasn't quite gone to plan because Kush has had second thoughts.
Yeah, well, they're both terrible at this, aren't they? Like, Stacey didn't have this problem when she did a runner. She was gone for months and months and months. She was fully prepared. And then Kush and Kat are literally just walking around the square. Kat goes and gets coffee in the cafe, you know.
I know.
Just seen by Jack, and Jan just tells Jack, get over it. I only whacked you over the head with a plastic CD player. God.
That was really strange, wasn't it? The fact that Jack even threatened and said, I could arrest you if I wanted to. But
of course you could. Go on, then.
I'm not going to bother.
No.
I've got more important things to do.
I mean, it gives an indication of how thick Jack's head is, because if you think about the things that have been whacked over people's heads in the past, you know, Lucy's wooden music box, you know, Heather and a little picture frame, killed both of them. Jack was absolutely fine.
Well, Kat did say this week it's only a flimsy plastic CD player. So
that's why they don't use them anymore.
I know, she knew what she was doing. She was full in control of that attack on I just cannot believe that she was just so brass about just walking around the square.
She didn't care, did she?
No, and Phil even said, like, "Oh, did you watch to see if anyone was following you?" And you said, "Oh, I watched my back." And then and then with a pocket full of notes that she got from Phil, went into the cafe and spent some of them. It was just nutty, absolutely nutty. And Kush, I think, did the right thing, let's be honest with you, for his sanity and our own, that he decided to turn himself in at the police station. I think he told one of the kids to keep it a secret, which was a bit strange, as he left the house and left them on their own unsupervised opening Christmas presents that were meant for other children.
I want to talk briefly about this because the kids, I mean, again, as has been typical of EastEnders, you know, it's all been very well filmed and, you know, nothing looks like everyone's 2 meters apart and any of this kind of thing. So, I mean, but are all these kids, like, related in real life then? Because they're all running around really close together and kind of sitting...
No, I don't think they are, because they're the original actors who played the original kids. Maybe they're all just in perspex boxes. They're all just like a Big Brother task. They're all in a perfect box. And they're all just being told just to stay in that box throughout the scene, and then they kind of photoshopped it out or something.
You know, it looked good, and as far as I'm concerned, as long as the shot looks right, then screw COVID, as far as I'm concerned.
That's a motto for life. If the shot looks right, screw COVID.
Yeah, there you go.
And so you're happy that Kush turned himself in. He did go on the terms that he would be released for Arthur's birthday and Christmas Day, which you can do nowadays.
I was going to say, I didn't know you could haggle with the police.
Apparently so.
I'll confess, and I'll go for prison as long as you like, but just let me spend Christmas with my son. That's, you know.
That's the terms. That's fine.
That's the terms and conditions that I'm prepared to give you.
Remind me, what is Kush being arrested for, other than a robbery? Or Grand Theft Auto.
I think that's enough, isn't it? He was caught, wasn't it, behind the wheel of a vehicle he was about to steal, and then he evaded police capture, went and hid in an attic, which I'm pretty sure isn't illegal either, and then went on the run again. So yeah, he's a wanted man. I don't know how Phil thinks that he's not going to have his name mentioned at any point during this whatsoever.
Phil, you're right. Phil did make a point about that to Kat. Phil strangely was on his own in Ian Beale's restaurant. Again, very strange moment for everyone. After having his conversation, because he's just divorced Sharon, come back to that a bit later, he has a nice little chat with Kat and basically says if Kush lands him in it in any way, then that's it. No more money coming their way.
Next, Mrs. Mitchell.
What, cat?
No, did you not see this? You know, when her and Richie's back this week, yay, which is nice to see, but just because of the level of subtlety that we've come to expect recently, Richie said to Phil that, you know, the next time that the next Mrs. Mitchell better be a bit more woke or something like that.
Oh, yeah, she did.
The second that she says that, cat appears, and people jumped on that online and kind of thought, oh, why? Oh, yes. Is that a hint that Cat's Mitchell is coming soon?
Right. So are you shipping it? Are you shipping?
No, I'm not shipping it. It's Titanic as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, so that's pretty much that story, really. I feel like we can't really do much more justice to it because it was pretty much. I think it was just to tidy it up for now, put it on the back burner to then come back to it in the new year. I feel like they could have brought them back whenever. Yeah,
I mean, they went on the run. It's not like it seemed like there was a massive amount of urgency to find them after Ian got attacked. No. So they could have stayed away. I love the fact the cat was like, trust us to come back in the middle of a crime scene. You know, they decide to come back to the square when the square is literally crawling with police.
But then when's the square not?
That's true. There's two living there as it is. So Jack's not bothered. But Jack wasn't bothered, so it's fine.
Jack wasn't bothered. Do you know something?
Jack had much more on his case to deal with this week.
Exactly, he did, because now he's hearing alibis from all the people who are suspects for the Who Duffed Ian story. And the very first one he got, right at the top of the week, was from Linda, who's been covering...
Sticking up for Max, isn't she?
Sticking up for Max, yeah. She's basically said that Max stayed with her all night, and Jack quite rightly basically has chastised Max and said, oh, for goodness sake, Max... Not again.
You again.
Yeah.
Here again, are we? Are we to believe then that Max and Linda slept together that night?
No.
Happen?
I think that you're meant to think it has, because obviously she's given him an alibi. I think it's for Mick to think that they have. Which he does think that they have, because he sees them walking out of the laundrette together. They're always having conversations together, always on the phone together. Mick's getting very angry, clenched fist.
They've kissed.
That is true. But so Linda is covering Max's back.
Yeah, well, I wonder if the night that Ian was attacked, Linda was just drunk and Max is covering for her that way.
I don't think so. I think that Linda has controlled her alcoholism fairly well throughout this whole episode.
Not really. Even in the past month, she's taken drink. She's been very tempted. I wouldn't say she's completely under control.
But yeah, but she's controlled herself from drinking it.
Because Max has stepped in.
No, because she had that bottle, didn't she? And then she poured it down the sink when she was on her own.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
then she was about... But then, Max found her in the park and she was, like, cradling this bottle of Rumble whiskey or whatever it was.
Yeah, but I think that Linda hasn't quite given into the temptation of alcohol yet. Whether she's given into the temptation of Max, I don't know.
Well, what's worse, really?
Both are drugs, aren't they? I mean, it feels like just a tag on for the Mick story. Like, they've created a story for Mick. They needed to give Linda something to do because Mick... The whole point of Mick's story is that he doesn't want to open up to anyone. So Linda can't just be this doting wife the whole time. Because of this alcoholism as well, it's pretty much an easy given that she would drink if she didn't have some kind of support network. So do you think the whole Max thing works with her, though?
I think it's quite in character for Max to sort of have a thing for a married woman. It's not like it's new for Max whatsoever.
No.
As far as Linda's concerned, it's disappointing because whatever's going on and whatever we're being led to believe is going on before we have the rug pulled out from under us, there is an attraction there, isn't there? There is definitely, because when she kissed Max the other day, she was stone cold sober when that happened. So there is an attraction there. This wouldn't be going on for as long as it was if Linda didn't want it to. She can fight it and battle it all she wants, but Mick's constantly pushing her away. Max is kind of giving her that attention that she's craving at the moment.
You've hit the nail on the head, I think. I agree. That's what's happening. Because Mick's pushing her away and Max is pulling her in, she likes the attention that she's gaining from Max, and so she's going toward it.
And we know how irresistible Max is to any woman within a 10-mile radius, so he decides to pull in.
I've never really understood the appeal of Max. And that's not the actor. I think the actor himself is a good-looking chap. It's the personality of Max.
He doesn't wear a mask. He doesn't wear a mask to play Max.
No, I know. No. I mean his personality.
You mean?
His personality.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Other suspects that have put themselves centre forward into the light of Ian's attack. Cool, that was a long sentence.
It was.
Is Tina. So Tina has basically told Shirley that she had a fight with Ian. He slapped her. Which
She did.
When she said that, I was a bit like, would Ian have slapped Tina?
I hit him, he hit me back. I was like, but then if you think about it, the way that Tina stormed into his house, like she clearly was about to rip his head off. So maybe it was self-defense. But still, I know what you mean.
That was a real. I really didn't see, of all the things Ian Beale is, I don't see him as someone who would, even as a reaction, would hit a female.
Oh, I don't know. He hit Lucy before. I don't think it was the Lucy that died. I think it was the Lucy before that. I think she was...
So many different characters, so many different actors.
I know. So Lucy too. Yeah, no, there was some sort of argument going on, and Lucy, and she was getting in his face and going, and then he just backhanded her.
Right.
And then she ran away.
Oh, okay.
So
well,
it's not new territory for Ian.
Okay, but it's not something he goes around and makes a point
not
of
frequently, no. It's not like Phil, just like kind of backhanding Sharon in the middle of the Vic in front of everybody. Well, he does it in private.
Yeah, or pushing her out the gate while pregnant. That was a real low for Phil, that moment.
Wasn't it just?
Okay.
He's not that bad.
I still find that a little bit... When Tina said that, I was a bit shocked to hear that. And maybe because in the back of my mind I had this... They're deliberately writing things, to make Ian the bad guy, to make him then Tina's attack more plausible. That's why they wrote it. But now you've said that about Lucy. Okay, fine. That okay, it makes some.
I mean, it's a bit different though, isn't it? Your daughter. You're not saying that hitting your children is right, but it kind of falls. No, I'm not at all. But it falls into a different category, doesn't it? You'd think. It feels a little bit more sort of like if you were watching a scene and Ian hit Tina. I think you'd be a bit more shocking than if he was having an argument with his daughter and the emotions were so heightened that he ended up hitting her.
It is different. Funny you should say about if they showed it on screen, because we said last week, we're going to have a flashback on this episode, and I think that if they did, then they would have to show that scene of him hitting Tina. Yeah. So that's, I mean. I
look forward to that.
Do you? Well, yeah, I suppose it's Tina. No. So no, of course I jest. But
I mean, I want to know how she got blood all around her mouth and then looking like something out of Twilight. I want to know how that happens.
Well, she does have a little cut on her lip. She had a cut, so that must have been perhaps Ian when he hit her. So that's where all the blood around her mouth came from. I mean, our theory that she bit Ian was thrown right out the window. Sadly,
I don't think we should be so keen to drop it just yet. It could be.
But we do know that Ian has been attacked by a blunt instrument. So at least we know that much now, which is good to know. I mean, weapon of choice. What do you think the weapon could have been?
The Lucy Beale Award. I said this a couple of weeks ago. It's the not silver Lucy Beale Award that got him. I'm telling you. Mm-hmm. I'm convinced.
It was there. It was to hand. I mean, they could have.
Although, where is it now? Is my question.
If that is the weapon, where is the weapon? That's going to be the key, I think, of when we discover who was it who duffed Ian around the back of his noggin. But we're fairly certain it isn't Tina now, because Tina, although she had that fight with Ian and he left the house fine, or okay, staggering maybe a little bit, Tina was a little bit worried that perhaps then he passed out later, Pauline Fowler-esque, when she got hit by the fruit bowl. And, and he then obviously was found in the Vic by Sharon and Kathy. Well, by Sharon, more on that later. So, so Tina was the first one to be arrested for it. Plus, Ian woke up and said, "It's Tina.
It's Tina. Tina did it. Tina did it."
So, I mean, Tina, we didn't see any questioning for Tina. I think Gray pretty much kind of said it was all circumstantial and
saved the day.
Tina did say that there was a police delivery driver who saw her. So did she have a fight with
a pizza delivery driver? Did you? Yeah, are we going to see the return of the?
Yeah, are we going to see the return of him? I hope so. The one who was mocking Mick.
Do you know what?
A couple of years ago.
I didn't hate him as much as everybody else did. I think I was just watching him with a sort of fascination that you watch a wildlife documentary with. You know what I mean? Like sort of, what am I watching? It was brilliant. I enjoyed.
It was a good time. It was when obviously the Stuart story was happening at the time when he was trying to wind up all the Carters. So did the pizza delivery driver see Tina because she had ordered a pizza after she had a fight with Ian?
I doubt that this pizza delivery driver even saw Tina. Like, if you're at work, it'd be like if someone was walking around a supermarket and remembers a assistant that was on the shop floor at the same time and said, right, that assistant there, he saw me. I was in Asda, I saw him. This assistant's not going to remember you. If she's seen this 18-year-old pizza delivery driver, it could be the same guy for all we know, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't be pinning my alibi on this if I was Tina. That's all I'm saying.
But I think Tina's in the clear. I think that's it. I think that's pretty much her out the picture.
Do we think we're going to ever hear about this need for an alibi? Because Jack said to her, well, we haven't found this pizza guy of yours yet, so you still need to find that, and I still need to find out who did it. So we've both got work to do.
Well, how many pizza establishments must be in, Walford?
In London?
Well, no, no. You wouldn't order a pizza from East London and have it delivered to West London. Economically, that wouldn't work for the pizza company. They'd be spending the cost of the pizza on the petrol to get to you. So all the pizza companies near Walford, I'd say within a 5-mile radius, Tina needs to call them all and say, hey, do you remember that time when I was bleeding from my mouth and I was outside my number 1 Albert Square?
Did you see the vampire in the street on the night of the 9th?
Yeah. Tina can find. I just think Tina's out the picture. I've lost, basically what I'm saying is I've lost my £5 at the betting shop.
I think you have.
I was adamant.
And I think you'll find at the betting shop, I think you said, I bet you £5 that it's Tina. So I should be expecting my £5 in a little brown envelope.
So yeah, no, I think she's out. Gray, I want to talk about Gray quickly. Why is Gray basically just suddenly become almost a saint of the square after everything that's happened?
I know.
With him. Why is everything, it's crumpled up and thrown in the bin, that whole year story of Chantelle and Gray and the domestic abuse storyline, because Gray is now the saviour of the square. Everyone goes to him for help and he just kind of moodily says, oh, don't you worry about it, I'll sort it out, and then that's the end of it. Yeah. I'm so angry.
I feel like he hasn't really, I don't know if it's saint status, I feel like he's just been kind of reverted back to his old life. I think it was basically his job at the time to sort of be the local defender of anybody on Walford, and he stepped forward and he's more than capable. Because to be fair, we know he's a good lawyer, so we know that he can do all this sort of thing. So he's just sort of doing his job. But yeah, I agree that it's mad how quiet his character has been since he dishwashed his wife to death.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting flashbacks from Ian because of Dennis's his hand at Dennis's death. Other characters are getting basically kind of like memory scenes of when they're remembering things that have happened in the past, and Gray's not getting any of those, not reinforcing that any kind of guilt that he's had his hand at playing at Chantelle's death. Or,
well, to be fair, he might be doing, but we just haven't been seeing a huge amount of Gray recently, have we?
I understand and I appreciate that this Ian story is the big Christmas story, and probably second only by the Max and Linda and Mick story.
And Honey making a big meal for the community centre, obviously.
That's the big Christmas story of the year.
Yeah.
But we should still be seeing rumblings of the Gray and Chantelle story. I'm sorry, but it's a little bit disgusting that they've just kind of forgotten it. It needed to be rumbling in the background, even if, like, his guilt when he speaks to Karen, like, there was a little bit with that when he kind of felt guilty when he had the kids around, he kind of sent them off, and Shirley was kind of looking after him.
No, it's the aftermath that's been bad, though, isn't it? Because it's absolutely. Not just Gray. Karen and Mitch when was the last time we saw Mitch, for example?
I mean, I'm not that
dealing with the
fast about...
Well, no, but you know what I mean, though. It's his daughter.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Keegan has completely forgotten about Chantelle. He's busy getting excited with Tiffany and all of this kind of thing. Bernie, is she even still in the show?
I know. Well, that's another thing we need to talk about. That actress, she's a wonderful actress. Why are they ignoring her?
She hasn't been in the show for months. So it's not just Gray as a character that's just being forgotten about and is part in the story. It's literally everybody that was involved in that story has just kind of taken a backseat to everything else that's been going on. I'm going to presume that it's going to heat up again around Christmas time, because I feel that my prediction is that Gray is going to lose his temper with either Shirley or Tina. Tina more so, I think, because she'll leave like a pair of knickers on the floor or something, and he'll absolutely lose his mind. And it displays some sort. Because we've seen the odd little flash of him losing his temper, haven't we? When Whitney saw him lose it at Kheerat in the square.
Yeah.
There is little kind of crumbs that we're getting every now and again, but I think that we're gonna come up to Christmas and something is gonna happen that moves the story on a bit. Is my prediction.
Do you think that Whitney and Gray will start a relationship?
Oh, I mean, probably at some point, probably in the new year. But I mean, I think that Tina's going to end up getting chucked out of the house at the very least. Possibly dishwashed herself. Who knows? Anything's possible.
Yeah, we'll wait and see with the Gray story. However, we've got the big one now. We've got Ian in the hospital. Kathy mothering him. Peter discovers this week that he is in a wheel. She's just not in Ian's. Bobby is feeling really guilty because he didn't count the right amount of numbers. So...
Now, look, I need to say about this. Why are they doing Bobby? Yeah, we get that Bobby's got really bad OCD, and it's a psychological thing. Maybe I'm being extremely insensitive here, and I apologise if I am, and please feel free to correct me. Is it really a thing that Bobby thinks that because he thinks he didn't count, if he counted, Ian wouldn't have been whacked over the head with a blunt instrument? Is that literally where his brain's at?
robwalfordweekly@gmail.com for any comments.
Is that... Am I missing something vital there in Bobby's character?
I don't know enough about how OCD and...
No, I'm not saying OCD.
Work.
I'm talking literally about Bobby's OCD and the way that they're writing it. I'm not talking about OCD as a whole.
He's quite a religious boy. I don't know if that would have any hand in on it. So he believes on kind of like almost a fate-like situation. So he believes that if he doesn't count the right numbers, that would cause an effect. So Ian's attack had happened because he hadn't. I think that might have some kind of hand to it. Perhaps maybe... I mean, like I say, I don't know enough about OCD mental illnesses in that respect, but I do know that I think when we all have this little kind of little irk, yeah. We all have this little irk, and I'm not saying that Bobby's problem is a little irk, but I mean, sometimes when you leave the house, do you sometimes think, "Oh, I forgot to lock the door"? Or
I get that completely.
Do you know what I mean? So it's the same. I think it's the same, but turned up to 11 for Bobby.
Yeah, no, I get that completely. I think my issue with it is that the fact that he was prepared to go back to prison for it, and like would go to the police and say, "I attacked my dad. I'm responsible for the whole thing."
But I think that's the funny thing. I think Bobby knew he hadn't attacked his dad, because Bobby was very open in the police interview to say, "Oh, the reason why I'm here is," and he then explained it. Then we had the flashback scene, yeah. and you saw him on a chair, and he was at his friend's house, and he forgot to count to look after Ian's soul, and so I don't think at any point Bobby thought that he was the attacker. I just think that Bobby felt like he had responsibility and that he had some kind of play into the attack. And so I don't know, but I do see what you're saying, but it's a fine line of knowing how kind of like the OCD illness would work. And I would be incredibly surprised if the writers and the producers of the BBC haven't gone to charities and contacted them.
No,
and
I understand that completely. I'm not doubting that they've done that for a minute. I'm just saying it came across was that Bobby was literally, until Jack kind of pointed out the logic to him, that because Jack actually was a decent policeman in that regard this week, surprise, surprise. It just seemed that he was kind of taking full responsibility for the attack. Like, no matter who had done it, Bobby was gonna put himself forward as the number one person that was responsible for it, and that to me seemed a little bit odd, especially seeing as though it was kind of like Peter had goaded him so much that. And Peter was also kind of making Bobby feel like, you need to stop talking, as though he thought that Bobby had done it.
Well, and I think that Peter does believe that Bobby had done it. That then puts a scene that we saw right at the end of the week throws it into a kind of a very different light, where Kheerat is speaking to Peter.
Yes. What's going on there?
About the van, because they found a van. There's a van with blood in it, but they haven't said for sure whether it's Ian Beale's blood. So that would then lead to that Ian wasn't attacked in the Vic at all, which is mind-boggling if that's the case as well. Is there another warehouse in London they haven't used yet? And
maybe.
And it seems as though Peter had some kind of involvement with Kheerat. If it wasn't to do with Ian, what are they up to? What are they doing?
Well, what I can tell you it isn't. For a start, it is nothing to do with Kheerat and Peter having some sort of sexual liaison.
I would be the first.
Yeah, you'd be up for it, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah,
you'd be well up for that, wouldn't you?
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah, you'd be like the head of the GIF community if that was going on, wouldn't you?
I'd start a fan Twitter site.
Yeah, that's not happening. All right, so get that out of your brains right now. All right, but it does kind of beg the question: what exactly is going on? Because we saw that Peter had a bruise on him the night that Ian was attacked that he didn't have before Ian was attacked. So where did that bruise come from, for a start? Everything else that's going on, to me, is more of a mystery than who actually attacked Ian.
Yeah, that's funny you should say that. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I feel like the stuff that's not happened to Ian is more interesting.
And less obvious
than what is actually happening to Ian. Yeah. So it's quite nice that they've now started to open up stories where perhaps Kheerat is up to some dodgy dealings other than, starting his call centre and his rat catching business. He's obviously...
Maybe they did a heist.
I'm not even responding to that. I'm really not. It's bad enough that, no, none of that.
Heist.
No, I refuse.
Heist.
But well, let's talk about Suki and Kheerat. Suki is clearly trying to hide something from the police. Kheerat and Suki does not want people to know about. I think it's...
Yes.
Obviously, you're meant to think, it's Ian Beale related. It's not Ian Beale related. But why is Peter involved with it? That's the interesting part.
Well, I don't know, because I was kind of assuming that the Panesars were responsible for the graffiti on the Vic door.
Why? Why did you think that?
I don't know. I just felt that it was... Well, because Vinny has got, graffiti history, hasn't he? We've seen Vinny graffitiing before.
That's true.
It's where his relationship with Dotty started. That's kind of where I assumed that it came from. Suki was just being really kind of guarded over the fact that her son's got a little bit Banksy on the door of the Vic. But whoever, if it wasn't them, I have no idea who wrote on the Vic door. But I feel it wasn't the same person who attacked Ian.
We thought that Dotty had gone. We know that Dotty hasn't gone because they've started doing lots of social media videos with the actress.
Yes.
Is it that old tale as old as time? That it's the one that's not even been involved in the whole story from the beginning to the end, that who had attacked Ian, and that is it's Dotty, and that she did the graffiti, because you said that she met Vinny when they were doing graffiti. Yes. She said, I'm into art, I quite like that kind of stuff. Do you think that could be it? It's just really left field, and that they've just decided that no, it's Dotty. It's Dotty all along.
I mean, I'd welcome Dotty's immediate return, because obviously I'm a big fan of Dotty.
Yeah. She has a lot of motive though.
She does, but most of them kind of have motive for doing it because of the way that it was written. But then her motive sort of disappeared off screen for months, didn't it, before she left? I just think that Dotty's involvement in the whole Ian thing just completely faded away to the point where, she dropped a rat through the Slater's door and then just wasn't seen whatsoever, and then decided that she was going to go see Dotty Island. And it was like Dotty had just been physically removed from the story. I mean, I'd welcome her being the one that did the graffiti on the door. I think that would be brilliant. I think that's the extent of her involvement, if she is indeed involved in any way.
So back to Kheerat and Suki. What do you think their cheeky little plan is then? What have they been up to? Why is there blood in a van? It's probably not Ian's blood. Whose blood is it? Is it human? Is it animal? What is it? What's going on? What are they doing?
I mean,
answer me now.
So the blood's getting examined by forensics.
And Kheerat was watching the forensic team, sultry.
He doesn't seem that worrid.
Well, he was being, he was giving a kind of a little cute look, he's kind of looking over.
A cute look.
Rubbing his chin, walking, strutting to the minute mark. Suki's kind of like looking at him, giving him a glare. All the police are here.
You lit a cigarette after the EastEnders the other night, didn't you?
I might have. I might well have.
I just think that it's possible, but something else entirely is going on with the Panesars. It might have something to do with somebody who delivered their rent late. Anything.
Wow,
nothing surprises with Suki.
Would they go that violent though? Would they? Are they now investing in violence?
Essentially, loan sharks. Essentially, maybe. I wouldn't put it past them.
Not Kheerat though. He's a man. He's the man of mind, not of fists.
He hasn't done anything that would suggest that he's exactly the deepest mind that you've ever seen anywhere. Yeah, listen, I'm as interested to see where they're going with Kheerat as you are. Well, maybe not quite as interested as you are, but, anything's possible. I don't think that he had anything to do with the Ian stuff, though.
No, I agree.
That's my feeling. I don't think Suki did either. Well, I think Suki had another plan, which we spoke about last week, didn't she? I think she was planning on maybe doing something with Ian's businesses or something, but I don't think that they had anything to do with Ian actually physically being attacked.
No. Let's talk about the one who's pretty much in the frame. Everyone thinks it is this person. Whether they did it in themselves or whether they hired someone else to do it, we don't know. Sharon is looking
I am taking immediate credit for this. I thought it was Sharon before she was a Beale. Just saying.
Sharon is pretty much... I mean, some of the stuff she was doing, especially on Friday, that line when she said, you're going to get my ring, Mr. Beale. And
not even being subtle about it.
No, in front of Kathy. And then Kathy kind of said, come on, Sharon, this is a bit silly. And Sharon wasn't, she was pretty much like, well, we're not getting any younger. We might as well just stick to it and see what goes on, really, shouldn't we? So she's got what she wants ultimately, which is the Vic. She always wanted the Vic. We have theorised that she knows about Dennis and Ian's hand at it. So it just, I don't know.
It's Sharon. It's Sharon. Simple as.
It seems too obvious, but at the same time, it feels like it's being played out in such a way that it cannot be anyone else.
Is it less obvious if you didn't notice the text message things? Do you just seem to think that Sharon's gone mad for a moment? if it's got nothing, if you're not looking for Sharon being the main suspect, as I have been, and I think as you have been now as well.
Yeah.
If you're not looking for that, is it quite as obvious as we think it is?
Everything she did on Friday was very Sharon 101, I'm up to something. Got a plan under my hood.
Yes.
Everything before that, not so much. But you could just tell there was a few subtle things here and there. Like, she would almost look relieved when she heard the news about Ian, having to have an operation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When she discovered Ian in the pub, a lot of people said, well, if it was Sharon, why would she have shouted? Well, why? Of course she would have shouted. She needs to make it look real. And
to who?
Well, to anyone
when she was in the pub.
Yeah, she was walking. Well, anyone could have been walking past the pub.
Oh, I see what you mean.
I think the pub, it was still quite early on because pizzas were still being delivered and Sharon was having a conversation with Karen outside her wall. And I don't know if it was that late. Perhaps there's a little bit in the back of my mind that is, but Rob told me that there was a text message in the allotment. But
there was.
There was, by the way. But everything just seems to be played out. Everything's acted. And I know they're actors. That's what I mean. I mean, Sharon is acting. She's becoming meta, she's acting as Sharon acting that she doesn't know that she had hit Ian Beale, you know what I mean?
Let's just briefly touch on the fact that, were you expecting to see the word Sharon Beale in the credits when Monday's episode started by the end of the week? Because I sure as hell wasn't.
I had a little bit of vomit in my mouth. It was horrid. I mean, for so many weeks we've been seeing Sharon Watts, and every time it just lights me up, it just lifts me up. Yeah, Sharon Beale. I mean... Wow. Can we talk about also the technicalities of the fact that Sharon had literally just divorced Phil?
Well, this is the other thing that kind of throws me into sort of, it's definitely Sharon mode. Because it's kind of like Phil seemed as determined as he could to get this divorce done as quickly as possible. So clearly they're now working together to get the Vic off Ian. Plotted it with Phil. She'll whack him over the head for good measure.
Do you think Sharon got her hands dirty? Because Sharon has an alibi. She was talking to Karen, and presumably the attack had happened while she was out the pub. So... Was she working with Phil and Phil got Ben to do it? I mean, you saw Ben leaving.
That's possible. That is possible. And if I swear to God, if that is what happened, I'm going to be annoyed. Because it's always Ben. Ben didn't... The only reason that Ben was angry with Ian was because he was the grass. He didn't have any clue what else was going on because Phil was really dismissive with him all week.
Well, not just that. He was also angry because he remortgaged Kathy's cat. So he betrayed his own mother as well.
I doubt he cared that much about that.
Well, he made a big deal of it. He got his daughter to really ride on Ian about it as well. Like, go on and on and on about it in a scene. Ben was more angry about it than I think we perhaps saw. Cross. He was quite cross. Yes, how British of you. I'm quite cross, actually.
Quite cross.
Can you imagine in EastEnders, in a scene in EastEnders, like Phil went up to Phil went up to Ian Beale and went, Ian Beale, you've made me quite cross.
I'm quite cross with you, Ian. No, Phil, please don't. No, Phil.
Not cross. Don't be cross with me.
You know what me being cross means? You're going down the loo, down the toilet.
Oh, anyway, they need a good flush in.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
It's been a long while.
It's been a long time. I mean, now you've put that possibility in my head that it might basically just be all the Mitchells working together. That is a possibility. Yet, again, it would make Callum look so incredibly stupid.
I was about to say, we're not the only ones that believe it could be the Mitchells, or in particular Ben, because Callum has been running around the square this week taking interviews from all the suspects. His technique is just above average. I mean, Suki put him in his place. Everyone he questioned basically kind of belittled him in one way or another. Even his own brother did at one point. But he really
You're really rubbish at this, aren't you, bro?
Not that good, really.
Maybe I am. Yeah.
I think he's beginning to believe it's Ben, isn't he? Because a lot of people are now basically saying to him, "Have you asked Ben? What about Ben? Do you know where Ben was that night?"
Which, if anything, should tell us that PC Highway thinks it might be Ben. That must basically confirm to us that it's absolutely in no way Ben.
Oh, I feel really sorry for PC Highway because
so do I. To be fair, because he's turning more into something out of Noddy every single week. He's just so bad at this, and like that, he's got so much going on underneath his nose. And even if he does know that it's happening, the Mitchells are like, "What are you gonna do?"
Yeah,
they basically have got Callum like on strings throughout the entire thing. Like, there is no point in anything. Phil has made it quite clear that he has no intention of stopping any sort of illegal activity that goes on. Ben has made it quite clear he's got no intent of stopping being a criminal at any point. So the pair of them are just living with this copper that they assume, and are quite right about, the fact that he's just going to roll over. They could be running a human trafficking operation in their front room, and Callum would still be like, right, Ben, what's going on in the living room? You know, I was in there. There was a load of people I didn't know. Nothing, Callum. Stop asking questions.
I know. It's. I feel sorry for him because he feels like he has to protect and look after Ben. But Ben, I don't think Ben appreciates it very much. Ben's just kind of like, oh, well, you can if you want, but I don't care. I'm just going to strut around the square, kind of accuse people of all kinds of lots of different things.
With a crowbar.
And Callum's just there, isn't he? He's almost just inconsequential, and he should be fronting this story, considering he's on the case with Jack, doing like all the investigating. It's just
all I want out of this is for Callum to be forced to arrest Ben. That's all I wanted out of this when Callum became a copper. I thought that would be a great little twist, that Callum at some point would be faced with the inescapable fact that he had to arrest Ben. That would have been excellent. I'd have loved that. So maybe that is still possible in some way, but now the way that Callum's going, it's going to be a wrongful arrest.
I know, because they'll weave their way out of it.
Ben didn't do it in the first place, and Callum's going to arrest him anyway.
Yeah, because he feels like he has to. It's his duty as a copper. D.I. Gaffney, pull your party poppers, blow your horns. D.I. Gaffney is on rest. He's on suspension. Yep, it was mentioned.
I miss him. I liked him. I missed D.I. Gaffney. He made me laugh.
Did you really?
I liked him.
I think that was basically the writers putting down their pens and saying,
podcast that we occasionally listen to takes the mick out of him every week. We ain't writing him anymore.
To be honest with you, it wasn't just us. If you went on social media, there was a lot of hate for D.I. Gaffney. Not just him, though. Let's be fair. The story was ridiculous. I said last week, there's nowhere they can go with it anymore. They're going around in circles. Their dogs chasing their tails. Let's just put an end to it. I'm glad they have. Let's be honest. I am glad that they have. I hope that's
still
the
return.
End. No.
He could still return with revenge on his mind. He's going to bring down PC Highway.
No, I think he's going to
take about 2 minutes.
I think he's going to be forgotten like Dylan Box is forgotten in Stuart's history. I think he's just... Yeah. We're all meant to forget it. We're all meant to click our fingers and just go, oh, who's D.I. Gaffney? Just difficult to watch, and I'm glad that he's not on the screen.
Honestly,
anymore.
I wasn't that offended by him. I just felt that it was... Yeah, I agreed with you that the story was just going into some ridiculously circular places. You've got 2 weeks to do this. 2 weeks pass. Right, you've got another 2 weeks. Get it done. Get it done. Right, you've got 2 weeks pass. Right, 2 weeks. That's it. It was just going in circles. How much longer is Callum going to be a copper?
I don't think Callum had long for his career.
Coppering world.
Coppering world. I mean, I like the idea of Callum being a copper. I do. I really do. I know a lot of people perhaps have said, oh, they kind of shoehorned it. Yes, he did his training in less than a day. Fair enough. I like there's a police officer on the square. I'd much rather, if they were going to have a police officer on the square, remember a year or so ago when Lofty and Mary, Punk Mary, and you saw her daughter Annie, who's a police officer, and I was sure that they were going to make her a character and have Mary come in and out every now and then, and I would love for her to come back as a character, Annie and Mary, and I would love Lofty to come back. I was talking to Ben, and the show is missing. Basically, let me start from where this all began. We've been watching. Sorry, get yourself comfortable.
I've got my tea. Go on.
We've been watching the 60th anniversary of Corrie this week, and Ben and I were having a chat, and we were saying, you know, Coronation Street's still getting fairly decent ratings. And I know you shouldn't base a show on how good ratings are, but with a soap, you kind of do. That's kind of what they kind of look for, especially on a commercial channel like ITV on Channel 4. BBC, they shouldn't be chasing ratings, but they do. But Coronation Street is still getting good ratings, despite... Although 60th anniversary week was good, I wouldn't say it was mind-blowingly good.
No.
It was fine. And from what I've heard reports of, Coronation Street isn't particularly great at the moment. No better or no worse than what EastEnders is at the moment.
Worse than EastEnders at the moment, frankly.
But they're still getting very good ratings. Why is that? Well, because there's characters in Coronation Street that if you haven't watched Coronation Street for 10 years and you came back to it, you'd go, oh, it's Sally. Oh, it's Ken. Oh, it's... blah, 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 blah. I don't know Coronation Street well enough to reel off a list of names, but I know them too. Kevin, there you go. There's another
Sally.
Kevin and Sally.
It's the roster of Coronation Street characters that you know off the top of your head.
But you know what I mean? It's like, because for some reason, Coronation Street have this real power that they can keep their cast, or they don't kill off important cast members without it perhaps being a very good reason to do so. I can't say that with a lot of strength behind my argument. Okay, there's Phil, there's Sharon, there's Ian. But there really isn't anyone that if you came back and like from when you watched it from the 80s or the 90s, you could kind of say, well, yeah, I really remember, Lofty.
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? And so I would love it if they would. This has all come from us saying how Callum shouldn't be a police officer anymore.
Yeah,
but I would love it if they could bring back. And the actors who play Lofty and Mary had said she'd do it part-time. Lofty, though, he said he would love to come back to the show.
I'm sure he would, because it's his job in actor, and I'm sure he'd love regular work again. I can't blame him for that.
But as a viewer, and I think it was a real pull for any viewers who have maybe lost sight of the show, I think it would be a real good incentive for people to watch again.
My thing on that at the minute, basically, is that I think that EastEnders have had a few executive producers in a row that have all decided, right, I'm going to throw a cataclysmic bomb into that set of characters and into that set of characters and kill off a few people. And actually what we've been left with is 3 massive craters in the square.
Yeah.
And sort of like the odd character sort of walking around in a daze going, what just happened? There have been some very odd producer decisions in terms of characters to kill off over the past, I'd say, 5 years or so. And I think that the effect it has had on the show has kind of been obvious, killing off, say, the Mitchell sisters together in one episode, for example. Yes, I will use any excuse to attack Sean O'Connor. And then killing off Abby. Big characters and axing big characters that the audience were identifying with and were becoming attached to, just to sort of make your mark on the show. And to Kate Oates' credit, for the most part, that's not her style and never has been. Yes, she's killed off characters, but is it characters that you think, we have different opinions on whether Dennis was a good character to kill off, for example. But, in the grand scheme of things, has she really done sort of mad axing sprees? No, she hasn't. So she's kind of working with what she's got. It's
difficult to know, though, if Kate Oates and John Sen, because you can't really, you have to, it's the same breath, isn't it? They are both the executive producers, technically. It's difficult to know what their plan is, though, with the show. Okay, maybe they're not killing off the big characters anymore, but they're certainly destroying them in the sense that they're rewriting history with them.
I don't think that they are destroying them. I think this is the thing, and I think what you're talking about here is the fact that you are a regular watcher of classic EastEnders.
How dare you?
And we are a regular watcher of characters of classic EastEnders. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And the show's history should always be respected because that's why it's still on the air. However, I also think that the job of a soap producer, whether you like their style of storytelling or not, is to keep stories coming out frequently, like a factory. The story cogs have got to keep turning and turning and turning and turning and turning at all times. And because of the rate of soap that is produced, trust me, I'm a regular watcher of Corrie. They've got it much worse in terms of stories at the moment than EastEnders have. Yeah, they've got the big old coercive control storyline that they've had going for the past 2 years, but trust me, not a lot else. Whereas EastEnders regularly are trying to do, stories in different ways and trying to keep us interested and trying to keep the drama going. I've always said that EastEnders looks and tells its story very differently to how the other soaps do it. And they always have, and they still do. And it's the rate of soap at the moment, and the rate that stories have to keep coming out. You're not going to like every decision that comes across. You're not going to like every story that happens. And there's going to be periods where you think this is the biggest pile of steaming manure I've ever watched in my life. But that, to me, isn't where EastEnders is at the moment. It's new characters that come in. We love the Panesars. They're a great addition to the square.
Oh, I can't
wait to... We love the Panesars.
Oh, yeah, I do like the Panesars, I must say. But maybe in a few weeks' time we could have a proper little sit down and discuss.
I'd love that. Yeah,
what we would like to add or remove from EastEnders, and then
I would love that.
And then we basically have the perfect soap, because we are. I'm
sure the cast and crew who listen to us can't wait for that episode.
I know. Their ears will bleed. Let's talk about a story that I absolutely love, and every week I gush and love about Stuart and Rainie because I do love them so much and I love their story, and I was willing to let the surrogacy thing just go over my head. It's fine now, been dealt with, we don't need to worry about that anymore. That doesn't mean that the Stuart and Rainie story still isn't chugging along, because Rainie went a bit AWOL. Stuart's very worried, not really knowing what happened to Rainie. Rainie comes back looking a bit dishevelled, desperate for a bacon sandwich, but gets arrested with Stuart. And then, coincidentally, they both gave the same alibi.
Right. Can we just talk about this alibi for a second?
I loved this so much.
This alibi was ridiculous. For a start, Deal or No Deal
is the greatest game show on earth.
I completely agree. I absolutely adore Deal or No Deal. Bring it back. And I applied for it so many times I can't even tell you. The alibi that they gave was that I don't understand how this even worked either. Or are we supposed to believe that they had some sort of weird synergy? But they both came up with this absolute bull story about they were sat at home watching a programme that's not been on air for about 6 years.
I believed it because I think that if you're that kind of couple, Stuart and Rainie, and I've said it before, they're that kind of couple. They live in their own little world. They live in their own little bubble. They are forever looking after one another, and they're good for each other because they are looking after each other. Yeah. They are each other's number one. And I truly believe that if you live with someone long enough, it's almost like when you finish the same sentence. Oh, I thought you were going to finish with me then. Damn well.
Sandwiches. Yeah.
It's a bit like that, isn't it, though? It's kind of like... And I just think, in my head, how I built it was that the night before, they were on Challenge TV. They were watching the Challenge Network.
Not even on Challenge TV. Trust me, I've looked.
Oh, okay. What channel then? Is it on any channel?
Not on. No.
Oh. Okay, it's on.
They showed like a series of. This is so geeky. They showed like a series of repeats during lockdown, the first lockdown of the celebrity version. So maybe that's when this was written.
There you go.
Maybe I'll give it that. But,
there you go. So they were watching the same episode. They were watching Do or No Deal on whatever network it was on
James
at the
Corden.
time. Was he on it?
He was on it. Yeah.
Oh, I hate James Corden.
What's your issue with James Corden?
What's not your issue with James Corden?
He's not in this country. He doesn't offend me. I barely see him apart from on Gavin and Stacey.
Oh, don't get me started on Gavin and Stacey. Oh, I'm going to get so much hate.
Wow. alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com.
Go on then, at me. Do it.
Yeah.
I'm ready. My fists are clenched. Yeah, so they were watching the same show. They were watching Deal or No Deal. Let's just say it was on the Challenge Network. And it was the night before.
Right.
Something happened, Rainie went AWOL, and it just remember it stuck in their mind that they were watching Deal or No Deal from that night. And so they just quickly referenced back to that, and that's where they came up with their alibi. And I truly believe it. I think that could happen. I do. I really do.
Right.
Okay. And it moves the story along in really the way it should, that Stuart and Rainie are now have nothing to do with the Ian story. So now they can go off on their own path and actually we can explore their story about how they want children and surrogacy. And that's the story I want from them. So I don't mind that they did that. I don't mind it was a throwaway comment. I really don't care because it means we get more Stuart and Rainie in a situation and a setup that I care more about.
You're going to insert applause over that at the end, aren't you? Well, in which case then, fine. You know, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. But can we? Where was Rainie then? What was she doing? Is she falling off the wagon or something? Like,
yeah,
she looked rough as a dog's arse when she came back. Like, what's going on?
I don't know, and I don't care to know. She just went a bit AWOL. She had a funny 5 minutes. We all have that. I go off sometimes and just come back 3 hours later, looking a bit like
3 hours. Yeah, not like 3 days later.
Oh, I'm sure we've done a 3-dayer. You've gone out on a Friday night and not come back till the Sunday afternoon. Come on.
I have.
Exactly.
Those were good days. All right, fine. But if you're happy with all of that, then absolutely fine. I mean, it didn't have. I love Stuart and Rainie as a couple. I think they work. I think the whole thing with the alibis was absolutely insane.
I loved it. It was loopy as heck, and I loved it.
It was complete and utter bewilderment when I was watching that. But fine. It's, but so what? You don't care where Rainie was. You don't think they're going to tell us where Rainie was? No, of course they are. Surely.
Oh, well,
you don't think they're going to tell us?
Maybe next week if there's scenes with them and they are like having a very serious conversation, which I'm sure
if the
they
stars
will.
align. Maybe they might tell us. If they don't, that's fine.
Well, no, I think
basically what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, if it might come up in conversation, but if it doesn't, I really don't mind.
It was like a 2-episode mystery of where Rainie was, and you're not bothered about the solution.
What? So you think they should do like a spin-off, like Redwater, where Rainie would gone for 2 days?
No.
I'd like that actually. I'd actually like that.
All I want to know is where she went. Everybody on the square is still a suspect, and Sharon's not the most obvious thing that's ever happened in the whole of Walford whodunit. Rainie is a suspect.
No,
because Rainie was getting. Yes, she is, because Rainie was getting all, getting all leery. So why did he get what he deserves and all that kind of thing? Was angry about the fact that Ian had apparently wrecked the surrogacy plans, and then she disappeared.
No.
So I'm not saying that she did it. I'm just saying that she. For God's sake, I'm not saying that she did it. I'm just saying that she is a suspect.
Okay, that's fine.
So we need to know where she was. It's one of the mysteries of that night, was where Rainie went to.
I think it's just to make up the numbers and that.
Oh, no, I agree.
I
agree, but they can't just say that and then not give us any sort of answer. They can't settle questions about Rainie and then not answer them.
I love Rainie and Stuart, and I want their story to be
nothing
to do with it.
For God's sake.
I want their story to be nothing to do with Ian Beale. I don't want them to have any attachment to it whatsoever. And I know that she's a suspect, but I just don't think it's important enough to put any kind of emphasis on the fact that she'd done anything to Ian. I don't think we're going to get anywhere with this, other to say that I'm looking forward to seeing what they're up to next week. Do you know what else I'm looking forward to?
Christmas?
Yes! Funny enough, Rob. And what would Christmas on the Square be without some kind of traditional thing happening, i.e. a nativity, or choir practice, or this year, a community meal? And who better to organise one than Honey after her son tried to steal from the Minute Mark?
What was that about? Why did... what, are we supposed to be like... So the whole Will thing, he was stealing something from the Minute Mark for his friend at school, who is struggling at the moment, which is fine, it's understandable and very realistic. And so what then? That gave her thieving son gave Honey the idea of helping the entire community. Is that's what we've got, isn't it?
Yeah, basically.
Fine.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed that Will is probably the bravest young adult on the square.
Brazen.
Well, bravest person on the square for the way that he stood up to Suki.
Suki, yeah.
Yeah,
Give her an old bag.
I know, and Suki, you could see she pierced her lips. She took it back a little bit, and then Honey was very quick to say, "Oh, apologise," and he was like, No, actually, I'm not going to apologise because I did this for good reasons. And by the way, most of your products in this shop are out of date, and that's illegal. And I mean, he had her there. I mean,
he's never had balls like this before, Will, by the way, has he?
No, not even when he was a model.
Sure. No, doesn't take after his father, that's for damn sure.
Well, he's a good kid. I'm looking forward to seeing more of Will. When he gets a little bit older, I think we've got a good little character being developed there. And I
wouldn't get attached. They'll probably recast him.
Well, we'll kill him. But no, I absolutely loved that scene with him and Suki. And as you say, it gave Honey a bright idea. That is that there's and it's true. Thanks to our government, I won't go any further than that. Kids are going hungry in our country, and it would be nice if at least they could all have one nice Christmas dinner this year. And a real statement. I think it was a good idea to have a story like that.
No, I like it. I'm hoping that's what it is as well. I'm hoping it's not. I can imagine what would be lovely. Just a nice bit of Christmas viewing this year would be Jay and Honey doing this thing, and it starts to snow on Christmas Day, and they're watching all the empty tummies being filled around them with the people that they've helped in the community.
You're trying to get a role as a narrator for like a children's show.
Yeah.
All those empty tummies getting filled.
Empty tummies were filled. I've got my professional microphone. What do you think I'm going to use it for? And then they have their first kiss. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yes. And that's what I was going to discuss with you. So you think this is basically the development of the Jay and Honey story? Because
I think so.
It'd
be a lovely development going forward, I think.
She did rope Jay in, she's roped Billy in, and she's roped Issac in. So she's got three wise men.
I would argue that Jay didn't need much roping, to be fair.
No, he really didn't. He certainly did not. Yeah, I mean, every Christmas at round about this time, it's always around about 2 weeks before Christmas Day episode, the Christmas story gets introduced. Yeah. Same as every year, really. They
won't beat the choir story. I loved the choir story.
Did you? I actually did too. The one when Jean was organising it.
Was hilarious. Yeah, and just the kind of like the Jean versus Kim thing that was going on. The choir lady was funny as well, and Kim being forced to apologise. I'm sorry. I loved it. Loved it.
Yeah, so I am looking forward to this story. I like a Christmas story, kind of just to soften the Christmas Day episode. Well, actually, to be fair, they don't normally do it on Christmas Day, do they? They normally do it on Christmas Eve.
No, it's normally the lead up.
Yeah, so it's normally Christmas Eve, the episode, and then they get ready for the depression and the and the madness and
brutality of Christmas Day.
Yeah, I know. When your empty tummies are filled and you're sat in front of the TV with your mince pie at 9:00, ready to see, as you say, the brutality of the Christmas Day episode of EastEnders.
Basically.
But I wouldn't have it any other way. So it's clearly a vehicle for Jay and Honey. Because Billy's involved too, I guess that Billy's going to perhaps get some kind of inkling of what's going on. Yeah, what's going to happen between them.
No, I welcome it. I hope that my prediction is close to what actually happens. Silent Night playing in the background, and Honey and Jay look over the work they've done for that day, and then they realise that there's a moment between them, and Billy watches them from across the empty cafeteria or wherever they've gone to.
Community centre, probably.
That's the one, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I'd like to see where this is going with them. And I've started to really kind of like the idea of Jay and Honey, if I'm honest, which is surprising me because I didn't like it when I first heard about it. But I'm for it now.
Yeah, I'm up for it. I like the idea.
I know you are. You've loved it ever since the idea. You've loved it ever since it started.
Well, anything that kind of pushes Billy out of the question of honey, I don't mind at all, because I hate
anything that gives Jay screen time. I'm happy with. So,
yeah, also true. Jay, he's a very capable actor, and he needs more. I mean,
much more.
I really wish they'd give him a serious storyline. As a child, they were giving him really gritty storylines, and now they kind of give him. They throw a few crumbs here and there to him. But I mean, I'm happy there's a Jay and Honey storyline coming up. It'll be good to see the relationship between him and Billy dissolve perhaps around it, because obviously Billy's
I still
get
say
upset.
that Jay and Whitney would be perfect together. That's one couple that I've always felt would be perfect together.
The problem with that is that Whitney doesn't go for the safe Jay kind of character, does she?
No, I know. Jay's not an abuser in any way, shape or form.
No,
so likely to ever happen. But
draw a line under that one, I think.
My fantasy couple. You've got Kheerat and Peter.
Well, no, Kheerat and me, my friend.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
Thank you. If I ever meet the actor who plays Kheerat, I'm going to be dreadfully embarrassed by everything I'm saying.
I really, really hope that A, that happens, and B, someone's filming it.
One day our dream may come. Anyway, that was the week of EastEnders. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it as much as we enjoyed discussing it. However, I'm sure you guys also have a few comments to make, so we're going to read some of them out right now on I Ain't Want to Gossip.
You know me, I ain't want to gossip.
So this week on I Ain't Want to Gossip, we have had some lovely comments coming through. Xena Johns Brackets Fulton on Twitter says Sharon did it, somehow found out about what Ian did to Denny and is now trying to take him for everything. Everything else is coincidental and there to distract you. See, I think that's basically what we were saying. It's basically saying that the stuff that's going on in the background is much less obvious than who attacked Ian in the first place.
Yeah, much more
which
interesting.
I'm assuming is what they thought was going to be the bigger mystery out of everything else.
I know, it's a bit sad that like everything that's happening around Ian, like the hospital scenes, as much as they were quite nice to watch, they didn't seem to have the same kind of impact for me than watching everything happening on the square around it. But then I suppose...
Can you imagine if it's not Sharon and it's got nothing to do with any theory that we've come out with whatsoever?
I'm leaning a little bit on Dotty now. I'm going on Dotty. Now Teen is out the question, I'm going on Dotty a little bit. Not all the way.
Oh.
I'm sticking to Sharon, but Dotty a little bit. Or Dotty and Sharon. Oh my goodness. Now we're throwing the ingredients in the pot, aren't we? Mark, the Herald Angel Singh, also known as Mr. K. Phillips 1 on Twitter, says, even though I loathe the concept of Sharon Beale, I still find myself grinning ear to ear whenever we get a Sharon Cathy scene. I know, I love their scenes together.
Yeah. It is nice to see. Just these two stalwarts of Walford, sort of basically showing everyone else how it's done, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, they're very strong women. They kind of work well off each other. I don't like that Cathy seems to have kind of turned into a bit of a dribbling mess over Ian. I think that she would be... I know it's her son and all that lot, but I think she would be a little bit more assertive towards Sharon.
But I think Cathy's maternal instincts have always kicked in no matter what happens. You know, she's always been mega... Let's be honest, she's had a lot to defend over the years with both Ben and Ian. So I think this is just second nature to Cathy at this point. Ashley McDougall says, I remember how excited I got after Boat Week when it said Sharon Watts on the credits. Now it says Sharon Beale, and I can't take it serious. I hope there is some major redemption with this storyline. See, the thing is, with this whole Sharon Beale thing, I would be much more offended by it if I didn't think that it's going to be gone after Christmas Day.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that the reveal is going to be Sharon, Sharon's involvement in it in some way is going to be revealed. After that, we're just going to forget the fact that they got married, and it's going to be a good pointless answer to to give when you talk about Ian Beale's wives. And that's going to be the end of it. By the end of this year, I don't think it will be saying Sharon Beale on the credits.
If this was Sharon's plan all along, wouldn't she have to then stay married to Ian to keep... Like, how long
to get divorced from Phil?
No, I mean they could annul it, but like how long do you think? I know you said it's going to end once it's found out about Sharon, but do you think Ian? You know what Ian's like? He's quite a desperate little puppy sometimes. Do you think he'll just be like, oh, okay, I forgive you, we'll stay married?
Probably, but probably. But I don't think that it'll... No, I'm convinced it'll be done. It'll be done by the end of the year. We won't be seeing Sharon Beale on the credits for very long. I think they've thrown that in as a sort of red herring to make us kind of think, oh, Sharon's married Ian, it can't possibly be Sharon. No, it's not. I'm convinced it's not happening. Don't worry about it. Don't let it stress you.
I shan't, I promise. One last comment talking about that lovely pizza delivery guy on Twitter one last time, just to remind us of Tina's alibi. And
that day.
At that day. And at Brogan_media on Twitter says, he was simultaneously the worst and most cringeworthy, but best character EastEnders has ever produced.
Yes, it was fascinating. I remember that episode so well. I can't remember anything else that happened in that episode, but I remember the pizza guy because it was just so random. It was like it was a comic relief sketch. It was like they put so much thought into this guy's insane dialogue. It was the most memorable thing about that episode. But the guy who played him, I can't fault him. I thought he did really, really well with... He must have looked at that script and thought, what the hell? How am I supposed to learn this? So I think he did brilliantly. You can contact us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly. Find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications about our spoiler videos that come out every week. You can also listen to us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify, or any of your favourite podcast sites. There are a plethora of them. I also have an email address at robwalfordweekly@gmail.com. Any abuse is to be sent to alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. And please do not forget to be safe, be kind, take care of each other, and let's all end this year on a nice positive note and be good to each other, shall we? We'll be back next week. God knows what we'll be talking about by then. If this week's anything to go by, but we all look forward to it because we like to discuss our favourite soap in the world. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Fare thee well.